In this video, I want to go ahead and show you how to bring in any, common JPEG, TIFF, or other graphic file format and insert it into your GIS analysis. And so how do we add data that basically doesn't have a spatial reference is really what we're up to here. The process we're going to use is called georeferencing. And one of the things that we need to do to accurately georeference information is that we need some type of vector data to be able to go ahead and link this graphic file that we're going to bring into it. And so to get started on this, I actually want you to go ahead and go to Add Data. And we're going to go to ArcGIS Online. And what I want you to do here is I want you to go ahead and look for Indiana hydrologic units. Okay, hydrologic units is a term, oops, back up here. I actually want the whole thing. I'm going to go ahead and click on and just hit OK. Hydrologic units is how watershed analysts have broken down the different basins where within, which water falls, all of that water will ultimately go to the same location. And so just go ahead and walk you through the process. A 2-digit HUC is a continental scale hydrologic unit code. And what I mean by that is that for the vast majority of the state of Indiana, all of the water that falls on the state eventually ends up going down and flowing out to the Ohio River and ultimately down through the Mississippi River to the Gulf of Mexico. Very similar to the northwest part of our state, the vast majority of that is actually flowing west, and you can kind of see flowing out this direction through the Illinois River to the Mississippi, and away we go. If we go ahead and jump up here, all of that water is going north and east to the Great Lakes. So it's going to go up into Lake Michigan and work its way out through the St. Lawrence Riverway system, right? So vast majority of the water is falling here. But we can actually use this to get much more local. And so as I go ahead and add some, jump up to a HUC 6, you see that we're starting to break this down even more finely. If I go to all the way to a 14, you're going to see lots and lots and lots and lots of little watersheds, little basins where water falls. One of the upsides of this is that when you're working on a landscape is that you can go in and find out, my site sits in this basin. Right now, what I'm trying to get it to do is go ahead and pop up some information for me. Let's see if it's running really slow right now. Let's see if it'll pop it up. Come on. Give it another shot. There we go. All right. I don't know why the first one wasn't working out for me, but anyway, this is a good example. This is a HUC 14. The name of the HUC 14 is Flint Creek, Flint Run, right? And Flint Creek, Flint Run, if you go ahead and search for this, HUC 14, Flint Creek, Flint Run, Indiana, what you're going to find is that there's probably additional data out there online about the water quality within that, about some of the monitoring efforts, and maybe even about some of the local efforts happening in that watershed to improve water quality. It's a really good way to, once again, connect data that's out kind of globally in publicly available data sources, but not yet kind of brought back into a geographic environment. This is definitely one way that you can get there. For right now, what I actually want to go ahead and do is I want to focus on one watershed in particular, and actually the one that I want us to focus on is just west of Lafayette, right? So West Lafayette, Purdue, we're sitting right here. This is called the Big Pine watershed, just to the west of us here. I want you to go ahead and pull out a selection so that we get a polygon that just includes this watershed itself instead of all of the statewide ones. And so if you remember correctly from previous videos, we're going to go ahead and select by attributes. You can see down here the object ID is 18. And so if I tell it that I want from the HUC 10, I want to create a new selection where the object ID is equal to 18. Go ahead and hit OK on this. You're going to see a selection. Again, I've got to come down to that 10. Go into selection, tell it I wanted to make a layer for my selected features, and then I can actually turn this one off, downsize it, and away we go. Now we've got a watershed boundary to work with. And the reason that I want that watershed boundary is actually because as I was digging up some additional information about this watershed, I came across a 150-page watershed management plan. And contained within that plan was a map that showed some areas where there's some additional conservation work that needs to happen. So what I want to go ahead and do now, and this is the JPEG we're going to use for this is available for download in on Brightspace, and so you should have already downloaded this. Hopefully you put it into your project folder. I'm going to go ahead and take a second, hit pause, and go ahead and navigate and bring in my layer. once you've found your JPEG and gone through the add data button and loaded it, again, the JPEG's name is AGP Skill Development for Big Pine Watershed Concerns, right? It's going to ask if you want to go ahead and calculate statistics. It's okay. It helps with kind of allowing the software to run well, and you can see it didn't take very long to produce it. The problem is that now I'm sitting here looking at this going, where in the world is my where in the world is this image that I've just brought in? Well, so the image right now, if I go zoom to layer, I'm actually going to see that for some reason the image has been shifted to a series of islands west of Ecuador for some reason. It's not really going to do much for me there, right? I'm really trying to look at this little watershed up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and make sure that I'm clicked on that layer. I'm going to go to imagery, and I'm going to click on the georeference button. What that's going to do is go ahead and it'll open up and a lot of tools and options for georeferencing an image like this. I'm just going to go ahead right now and click on the fit to display button, and so you're going to see what just happened is that it just, the image jumped from the Eastern Pacific Ocean all the way back here into Indiana, but it's hard now to see everything else that's going on here. So I'm going to actually go ahead and click back over here on this. I don't need image. I don't need to keep clicking on that there. I actually want to go here to appearance. I'm sorry. Underneath appearance, you can actually go ahead and set the transparency. And so right now I'm going to go ahead and kind of set that about like that. And then I'm going to go back to my georeference tab. You can see that my overall watershed, right? So this hook is actually that hook right there. I need to get this to scale to fit. Well, ArcGIS has actually made some pretty amazing improvements on how this is done, and it's done using control points, and so they're all kind of right here for you. Just go ahead and add a control point, and you're going to see I'm going to try and pick the bottom of that straight line right there, and then I'm going to zoom in, and I'm actually going to snap right to that point there, and you're going to see that now the entire boundary is just shifted on me. The other thing I see is that there's kind of a point right there at the end of the watershed, and so I'm going to go ahead and actually come down, and I'm going to put a control point right at that point, and then I'm going to come back up and snap it right there. You can actually see that right now I'm getting really close just with 2 control points, but you can actually come in and refine that anywhere you want. Again, the drawing that's behind here isn't as accurate as the vector line work that I've got, so I'm going to kind of click in the middle of that line there and then bump it up. Watch that kind of move into play. I can go ahead and do the same thing over here, kind of center of the black line, move it out just a little bit, and again, a few small tweaks, and we've kind of got everything headed right to about where I want it. I mean, again, there's a little bit of weirdness here, so maybe I'll go ahead and move that one just a touch. You could basically continue to play with this however you want. But again, I'm looking to bring in some information about the watershed that I currently don't have an existing shapefile, raster file, or any data in GIS. I'm going to go ahead and click close referencing, and it's going to ask me, it says unsaved edits, do I want to continue? And the answer is no. I need to go ahead and click save first, and then I can close it. And what you're going to see now is that I now have a layer of information for my watershed that's hiding behind it. If I want to go ahead and change the transparency back, I can. But one of the things that we could look at is livestock access. What this means is that basically cows and other livestock have been observed in the creek themselves. So all these pink areas, that's what we're seeing there. If we go and look over here at the legend, you're going to see that kind of this brownish, and when it's actually in full color, it's like a olive green color. Grassed waterways are needed. Basically, these are areas of, where we have lots of erosion happening. Right now, you can actually kind of see that kind of tucked in here. This is how we bring together and georeference simple graphic JPEGs and TIFFs and bring them into an environment here. It'd be really easy to now go ahead and create a new layer and start to digitize these or simplify it, right? Instead of going in and drawing the pink lines in over again, I could just drop points, and those points I could use for future analysis as well. Anyway, this has been georeferencing. We'll go ahead and pick up a little bit more with this when we've got some additional land cover data in our next video to work with.